Okay, so spiders. Anyone else get a little, I don't know, creeped out when they see one out of the corner of their eye?
Oh, for sure.
Especially here in Southern California, right?
Right.
Like, what exactly are we dealing with?
Right.
And those stories, the whole brown recluse in the shoe thing gives me shivers just thinking about it. But you, our amazing listeners, you're ahead of the game. You've got SoCal spiders on the brain, and you want to know the real deal specifically about those brown recluses. Are they actually here? What should we be watching out for? Good news.
We've got answers.
We're doing a deep dive today into this article from Simple Pest Management. They're a pest control company here in California. And their article is titled, Are There Brown Recluse Spiders in Southern California? Catchy, right?
Yeah, it gets right to the point.
It does. And the best part is, while, yeah, they probably want us to call them for an exterminator, this article is surprisingly level-headed. Informative, even.
You're absolutely right. It's a good article. And it actually speaks to a bigger issue, this whole thing about misinformation spreading so easily, especially when it comes to spiders. The brown recluse is like the poster child for that. Fear kind of takes over and facts go out the window.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that fear is powerful. But our listeners, they're here for the truth, no BS. So let's get to it. Are brown recluse spiders a SoCal problem? Drumroll, please.
I'm guessing no.
According to this article.
Nope, not native to our sunny shores.
That's a relief. The article's very clear about that. They're mostly in the Midwest, those brown recluses. And look, being cautious around spiders is always smart. But the odds of running into a brown recluse here in SoCal? Pretty slim. Okay, that's good news for anyone who, like me, was maybe avoiding their shoe closet a little too often. But, and this is where it gets even more interesting, just because brown recluses aren't common here doesn't mean Southern California is some spider-free utopia, right?
Exactly. And it's a good time to point out, not all spiders are created equal. In fact, a lot of them are actually doing us favors out there, keeping those other insect populations in check.
Right, so we don't have to worry too much about brown recluses, but other spiders, not so fast. Like widows, right?
Exactly. And this article doesn't let us off the hook for those. Especially the western black widow, the one with that hourglass, It's really calling them out as one of the more dangerous spiders we've got here in SoCal.
Yeah. Widows. Even I know those are nothing to mess with. I always get a little nervous reaching into dark corners, The article says their venom is designed to paralyze their prey, which makes sense. Spiders, prey, but still, it's kind of freaky to think about.
Yeah, and it can cause complications for us, too, humans. Not just bugs.
Makes you think twice about where you put your hands and feet, huh? Like garages? Under those boxes in the attic that you haven't touched in years? Wood piles?
Oh, for sure. And then there's the brown widow. They look a lot like black widows, the article says, but with a slightly less intense bite as far as the venom goes.
Okay, so less venomous is good, I guess, but it still sounds like you get bit by either one, you're heading straight to the doctor, right?
Oh, absolutely. Better safe than sorry, especially with something like that.
Totally agree. So we've covered widows. What about those recluse spiders, though? Any chance we might run into like a recluse cousin or something here in SoCal?
That's really interesting you should ask that. The article talks about the desert recluse, and it says a lot of people mix them up with the brown recluse. And that's where it gets tricky, right? Because the desert recluse, it looks a lot like the brown recluse, but it's way more into, well, the desert.
Makes sense.
You don't see them hanging out in Culver City too often.
Okay, good to know. So desert recluse, not totally impossible, but probably not building a web in my houseplants either.
Exactly. But speaking of recluse, there is one kind the article mentions that has been spotted in Southern California. The Chilean recluse.
Whoa, wait, hold on. Chilean recluse. That sounds like, I don't know, something Indiana Jones would find, not something hanging out in, like Pasadena.
Right. It's kind of wild. But that spider's for you. They pop up in the most unexpected places. Nature is full of surprises.
Okay, so tell me more about this Chilean recluse. How worried should we be?
Well, the article says they're larger than brown recluses, and their venom, it can cause necrosis.
Necrosis. That sounds serious. What even is that?
It basically means tissue death.
Tissue death. Yikes. Not good.
No, definitely not. But it's important to remember that, according to the article, serious reactions to Chilean recluse bites, they're pretty uncommon. And like we said before about the venom, it's strong, sure, but not considered as dangerous as their brown recluse relatives.
Okay, that is a little reassuring, but still, Chilean recluse, not a spider I want to have a close encounter with. So we've got widows, we've got those recluse relatives. Anything else we should add to our SoCal spider watch list?
One more. And this one, you're actually more likely to come across than any of the others we've talked about so far. The yellow sac spider.
The yellow sac spider. Okay, that's a new one for me. Fill me in. What are we talking about here?
They're super common in Southern California, these guys. They're yellowish white, hence the name. And they build these little silken sacks, like tiny little sleeping bags, And they like to build them in corners, cracks, the spots, especially inside homes.
Wait, inside. So unlike widows who like to be left alone in the dark, these guys are more likely to, like, bump into us on their morning commute.
It's possible, yeah. They're more active hunters, and they're not as shy about coming out in the open.
Oh, boy. And they are venomous, right?
They are, but their bites usually just cause some swelling, maybe some itching and redness. Nothing too serious for most people. But, as always, if you see something weird, definitely talk to a doctor, just in case.
Okay, so with the yellow sac spider, it's all about awareness, right? Like knowing what it is, knowing it's probably not going to send you to the ER, but still being smart about it. I can get behind that. But on that note, how do we avoid those unwanted spider encounters in the first place? Is that where our pest control friends come in? So do we call in the big guns? What does the article say?
They definitely make a case for prevention. It's a lot of common sense stuff, really. Like sealing up any cracks or gaps you might have, around the house.
Sure, keep them from sneaking in.
Exactly. Yeah. Then decluttering, especially in those darker areas where spiders like to hang out.
Oh.
And keeping things clean, that always helps.
So basically, channel your inner neat freak and make it less inviting for those eight-legged house guests.
Pretty much. Now, they do recommend calling pest control if you've got a serious infestation. But it's also worth mentioning there are other experts who can help out too, especially if you need help identifying a spider.
Oh, you mean like entomologists?
Right. Those guys are like walking, talking spider dictionaries. They can tell you exactly what you're looking at, if it's dangerous, the whole 9 yards.
That's a good point, because let's be real, most of us see a spider, our first thought isn't, oh, I wonder what species that is. It's more like poisonous, yes or no?
Right. But that's okay. That's what experts are for. But what we're learning today, I think, is that knowing a bit more about spiders can actually make them a lot less scary.
Totally. And less likely to send us running for the bug spray. So we've learned a lot today. We busted some myths, met some new spiders, like that Chilean recluse. Never thought I'd say that. But even though we don't have to worry about brown recluses here in SoCal, we've still got a pretty interesting and sometimes, yeah, kind of creepy group of critters sharing the space with us.
That's nature for you, right?
It is. And it's not about being scared. It's about, like you said, understanding, knowing the risks, and then maybe, just maybe, even appreciating these creatures a little bit more. Who knows? Maybe this deep dive will inspire some future entomologists out there.
There you go. You never know.
Exactly. So to all our listeners, next time you see a spider and wonder, is that the one from the podcast? Remember, knowledge is power. Stay curious and, hey, maybe invest in a good magnifying glass just in case you ever do want to get up close and personal with your eight-legged neighbors.